unranked dual stat mods, specifically unranked dual stat mods for melee weapons, and even more specifically, Virulent Scourge and Vicious Frost. Why would you ever want to use them unranked? Why not max them out? I mean, they will only drain 3 more capacity, which is not a problem on melee weapons since you get a ton of extra capacity from a stance and you will get a ton of damage and a lot of status in return. The answer to that question is status weighting, because while yes, the chance to proc a status effect is affected by your status chance, the type of status effect you will proc and how often you proc it is determined by how much of each damage type you have on the weapon after you apply mods. So if we have a melee weapon, let's just say, that does 100 viral damage and 100 slash damage after we mod it, you're gonna be proccing about the same amount of slash and viral with it. But if we take another weapon that after mods has 200 slash damage and 100 viral damage, it will proc slash about twice as often as it does viral. The reason, by the way, I'm using slash and viral melee weapons in these examples is because those are the 2 damage types that are affected by this the most, as the vast majority of the damage that you get with these weapons comes from status effects. The reason this is important is because when you use a fully ranked Vicious Frost and combine it with a fully ranked Virulent Scourge, you are always going to end up with more viral than slash, as each mod gives you 60% of the weapon's total damage as extra elemental damage, so you end up with 120%. Now, I personally find the best ratio to be about 2 to 1, so you want to have 2 slash damage for every 1 viral damage that you have on the weapon. And it just so happens that most slash-based melee weapons can get relatively close to that if you use 2 unranked dual stat mods. This does create a bit of a problem though. Using unranked dual stat mods doesn't give you a lot of status, but luckily melee weapons have access to the Weeping Wounds mod, which gives you status stacking based on your combo. Weeping Wounds also doesn't care about your modded status. It looks at your base status and multiplies that, so it gives you the same bonus of status whether your dual stat mods are maxed out or not. You would of course get more status chance if your dual stat mods were maxed out, but it's not really worth losing the damage that you get from imbalancing the weapons towards viral. Because the amount of damage you can gain by balancing your weapon so that it procs slash about twice as often as it does viral is rather substantial. And there are 2 main reasons for it. Number 1, viral, as in the status effect viral, doesn't do any damage on its own, it just increases other damage. And number 2, viral only stacks to 10 times. So proccing viral and nothing but viral doesn't really accomplish anything, because eventually you're just gonna get to 10 stacks and then what? It's also much easier to get viral procs from other sources, like your companion or a secondary weapon or any kind of a primer weapon, because it doesn't matter how much viral damage you do, you just need to proc the status effect. Whereas with slash, well, you want to juice that as much as possible. Now, if you've played the game before, like a few years ago, this might seem rather strange to you, and that's because it wasn't always like this. Physical status effects used to have much higher weighting than elemental effects, so using fully ranked mods was optimal. Doing that in the old system would, funnily enough, give you about 2 to 1 ratio of slash and viral on most weapons, so we're effectively doing the same thing, but we're just getting to it a little bit differently. Now, using unranked Vicious Frost and Virulent Scourge doesn't work every time, specifically on weapons that have a lot of secondary damage, so weapons that do primarily slash, but also have a lot of impact or puncture. If you use unranked dual stat mods on those, yes, you might get about a 2 to 1 ratio of slash and viral, but you're often also going to be very close to about a 1 to 1 ratio of viral and the second highest damage type, whether it be impact or puncture. This is also not a good thing, because you're not going to have enough viral procs to multiply all the damage you get from your slash procs. This is where Carni's Mandible and Buskill come in, because even though these 2 mods don't increase the damage of your slash procs, they still give you more slash damage, so it makes slash more likely to proc. This then allows you to use one fully ranked dual stat mod and still be somewhere around a 2 to 1 ratio of slash and viral, while simultaneously allowing your viral to overpower the second highest physical damage type. So instead of having a 1 to 1 ratio of viral and impact, let's just say you might have a 3 to 1 ratio, which gives you more viral procs overall, but doesn't mess with your slash procs. Now, this whole thing about unranked dual stat mods at all, it does feel a bit counterproductive though, especially if you're not playing very high level content, because in the lower levels, maxing out your mods actually feels a lot better than not maxing them out, because you have more upfront damage. Especially if on top of everything else you're also using condition overload, which you will most of the time. So then not only do you have to build your combo counter, you also have to proc some status effects on the enemies for condition overload to kick in, and then you have to wait for your slash procs to do damage. So it's not necessarily worth using unranked dual stat mods if all you're going to be doing is running around on the star chart. If you're not going to dip into high level steel path, there is really no reason to do this, as you really only start to see the benefits depending on the weapon you're using, of course, above level 100, maybe even 200 if the weapon you're using is particularly strong. So if you're only gonna do low level stuff and maybe dip into a sortie every now and then, you don't have to worry about this at all. Now this isn't something that I figured out on my own, I take no credit here, I'm just trying to explain it here for those of you that may not understand it yet. It actually took me quite a while to adjust to this new system, and I only did so after reading about it in the comment section over and over and over again. But I would highly recommend you experiment with it, try it out on a few weapons, and see the results for yourself. And as always guys, I thank you very much for watching, I hope you've enjoyed the video and it was helpful, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.